speech TV, in addition to hundreds of thousands on local radio stations and online.
AFGE is so proud to be associated with this show and looks forward to being working with Bill and this show for a long time.
Bill Press is the right man at the right time with the right message.
And thanks to the Bill Press Show, we get our message out to thousands and thousands of people every day. Thank you, Bill Press.
The Teamsters are a proud partner with Bill Press on his show, telling the truth about what's going on with working families. Tune in.
Yes, it's been a fun and exciting 10 years so far for the Bill Press Show. We're looking forward to many more with all of you, broadcasting live every morning from the nation's capital.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine,
Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It is the Bill Press Show. Here on this Friday. God, look at that. What's today's date? The 20th. Friday, November 20th? Are you kidding me? We're already there? Oh, man. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Happy Friday, November 20th. Streaming live audio and video to you via your favorite progressive talk radio station. Also on YouTube at youtube.com/TawkrTV. And, of course, at Free Speech TV on the Dish Network or DirecTV or Roku. Shout out to Roku. You can watch us on the Roku box if you've got one of those. Lots of different ways that you can catch the show. I encourage you to check all of them out. Running the board today is Jamie Benson. Mr. Benson, good morning.
Baby?
What's happening, baby?
Good morning, sir.
How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Happy Friday.
You as well.
Screening your calls at 866-55-PRESS is Ray Rogers, who is standing by to take your calls. And if you are streaming the show or watching the show, looking at the video, you're doing it because of Cyprian Bolding, who is keeping us on the TV screens here on this Friday. Yesterday was 1 week. 1 week countdown to Thanksgiving.
Yes, it is.
Dude, I'm so excited. By the way, best holiday, can we all agree? Best holiday is Thanksgiving?
I'm a Christmas guy, like by a hair.
Come on.
By a hair. I mean, I love Thanksgiving.
First of all, Christmas isn't even number 2.
Why?
4th of July is number 2.
No.
What are you talking about? No. The 4th of July is like this.
Not anymore.
First of all, Thanksgiving by a mile. Right? Thanksgiving by a mile is the greatest holiday. Followed by 4th of July because the weather's nicer. You can hang out outside. You could grill. You could drink outside all day. You could go to the beach. Your options are limitless. Christmas, you know.
4th of July doesn't really end well for me most years.
Well, I mean.
And Thanksgiving sometimes doesn't end well for me either.
Thanksgiving never ends well. It always, because you're hanging out with a bunch of people and you're eating too much and you're usually drinking too much.
And the football games are never that good.
No, but it's tradish, right? You get to hang out, you get to eat too much. I really, truly, honestly, of all the holidays, because I could point to Thanksgiving and I could say, this means something to me. Right, it's the beginning of the end of the year. Right, we're walking slowly towards the end of the year. We begin our reflections on the year, and we can look back and really honestly talk about things that we're thankful for, what it means, what that year meant to you. Christmas, you got all the dumb decorations. Big stupid tree.
There's no dumb decorations.
The decorations.
Except for the
worst.
people that just litter the yard with
the dumb
every
tree.
Imaginable blow up Santa.
I got one of those in my neighborhood, by the way.
Of course you do.
I got one of those neighbors. I got some neighbors who already have their Christmas lights up on the outside of their house.
That's not good.
No, it's a universal rule. You know what it is.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, they could go up.
Right.
I should say the day after Thanksgiving, you can put up your Christmas decorations.
Let the stores stock them after Halloween. That's fine.
I'm fine with that.
You prep for it. Maybe there's some sales.
Yeah.
I saw Christmas lights for $5 yesterday at Target.
Oh, nice. Did you get some? You gonna decorate the?
I got plenty.
The pad. You got everything you need.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Do you do a tree? You've got like a roommate situation.
I haven't done a tree in DC, but now I'm in I've always been in an apartment. Now I'm in a house with
big
room? Ceilings.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna do a tree this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I go fake tree, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a ride or die guy for a fake tree.
Well, I'd say I'm worried I'm probably going to be the only one that takes care of the tree if it is real, so maybe I do go the fake route.
I'm going to tell you something. Go buy a fake tree.
All right.
They're not that much money. But then you have it forever. I've had the same stupid tree forever. And I hate putting up Christmas decorations. So here's the deal with Thanksgiving, by the way, because as you may know, if you've listened to this program, I also do some food writing on the side. So I am giving, Ray, I want you to listen very carefully. If anyone calls in with needs some Thanksgiving advice, Thanksgiving tips, I'm your guy, right? All day long. All right?
We'll just doing a call-in show just for tips.
Bring it on.
All right.
I'll call-in show. By the way, call and educate me. Tell me what your Thanksgiving tradition is. That's how much I love Thanksgiving. I'll talk about it all day long. And I've got very strong thoughts on the whole brine versus no brine on the turkey.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. What do you do? Did you ever cook a turkey?
I did it last year for the first time by myself.
What do? You brine?
No.
That's right. You don't brine.
I don't brine.
Everybody says brine the turkey. Wrong. You want to know why? You can call me. I'll tell you. I'm going to spend more time on this. All right, boy, oh boy, do we have a show coming up for you today. Lots of good guests are going to be joining me. Some friends are going to be joining us via telephone, and we've also got some friends coming in studio as well. And again, 866-55-PRESS is our phone number if you want to give us a call about Thanksgiving tips and recipes or anything else for that matter. 866-55-PRESS. All that coming up, but first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Look at this guy.
Just
the Full Court Press.
A couple of other stories for you on this Monday morning. Once I get my voice back.
Oh, come on now, get it together.
All right, so the author, one of our favorite authors here on the Bill Press Show, Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yesterday won the National Book Award for nonfiction for his excellent book Between the World and Me, which, as you may know, is a letter to his son about being black in America. Very, very powerful book. Also at the National Book Award last night, the fiction award went to Adam Johnson for Fortune Smiles. Have you read that one, Peter?
I can't read it right.
All right. Mr. Coates, who also works for The Atlantic, won the award. Other famous authors that have won the National Book Award established back in 1950. William Faulkner, Saul Bellow, and Flannery O'Connor. So he joins some great company there.
I'm going to tell you something about this guy, this Ta-Nehisi Coates. He can do no wrong.
No, I don't think he can.
He can do no wrong. Everything he puts his hands on turns to gold. And just what a talented writer, too. And not only probably the best writer that we have on issues of race and things of that nature, he's also doing comic books now, which
Black Panther, right?
The Black Panther, which I'm very excited about. So, yeah, good for him. Nobody deserves it more.
I agree. All right, so some unfortunate news out of Massachusetts yesterday. Campus police at Harvard University are investigating a possible hate crime.
Oh, no.
Strips of tape were found on the portraits of black faculty members at Harvard Law School. Literally just black strips of tape crossing out their faces. Second-year law student Michelle Hall said the portraits were defaced and, quote, covered with a single piece of black tape, effectively crossing them out of Harvard Law School's legacy of legal scholarship. This investigation is still open, has not been confirmed as a hate crime as of yet. They will be having a meeting. The dean will be holding a meeting this upcoming Monday, November 30th. Not a good thing to go into the holiday with.
Look, Boston is Boston.
Hold on.
When we're talking about, no offense, Jamie, because you're one of the more enlightened ones, but Boston, when we're talking about cities above the Mason-Dixon line, is wild racist. Come on now.
I mean,
Boston can be wild racist.
It's come a long way, obviously, since the busing crisis, but it's.
But at the same time, like,
still some problems.
We're talking about Harvard. Mm-hmm. You'd expect there to be some higher thinking going on there, but it's everywhere, man.
And by the way, this was in response to some Black Lives Matter protests at the university.
Of course.
Anyway. All right, some positive news to end on this morning here for this Full Court Press. This is out of Shannon, Ireland.
Okay.
This is at an airport. There were 400 U.S. soldiers getting ready to eat their paper sack dinners when a Los Angeles-based businessman named Shlomo Rechnitz approached the commander of these troops and offered to pay for all of their meals.
Oh, nice.
And not just a regular meal, not just Popeyes or whatever there was.
I was going to say.
It's probably not a Popeyes in Ireland.
Man, I hope there is.
He said you can have any meal at any restaurant up to $50.
Oh, good for him.
Mr. Rechnitz said, I'm on my way to Israel now, and you guys protect folks out there. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. So,
good for him.
Heartwarming news.
Yeah, I like that story.
I
like that story. Thank you. That's a good story. Yeah. I'm trying to figure what kind of food they got at Ireland Popeyes. It'd be good.
I don't know.
I mean, it would be good. Yeah. That's what it would be. It would be good. All right, so we're going to start where we usually start these days. We're going to start with some 2016 news because it was a big day yesterday. We had the two top Democratic candidates, but let's face it, they're the only Democratic candidates because we're not really counting Martin O'Malley these days. Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders both giving big speeches. Hillary Clinton is sort of a big moment for her where she was going to come out and she was going to talk about how we're going to defeat ISIS, her foreign policy, how she's going to handle this refugee situation. A lot of big stories on the table to see how she would handle them and how she was going to spell them out. So a couple of clips I want to play. We're not going to spend a ton of time on her because I want to move on, but she did sort of – here's my takeaway from Hillary Clinton's speech yesterday. It's a continuation of the Barack Obama mentality and the Barack Obama foreign policy standards, but she put them together and sold it, frankly, a lot better than he has with his own policy. The way that she walked us through how we were going to defeat ISIS and how she said, no boots on the ground, reiterated that point.
Like President Obama, I do not believe that we should again have 100,000 American troops in combat in the Middle East. That is just not the smart move to make here.
Boom. That's what Americans want to hear, okay? We don't want to go to another war. We really don't. But then she pivots and talks about the refugee situation and talks about us as a country and our values.
Turning away orphans, applying a religious test, discriminating against Muslims, slamming the door on every Syrian refugee, that is just not who we are. We are better than that.
I would like to think that she's right, that we're better than that. But I'm not sure. And that's my question for you here at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Because you have that sort of enlightened, forward-thinking policy from Hillary Clinton, right? That's on the Democratic side. Let's talk about the Republican side, shall we? The two frontrunners are still Donald Trump and Ben Carson. Latest Bloomberg Politics poll out of the U.S. adults on Thursday found that Donald Trump is at top with 24%, Ben Carson with 20%. Now, this is a poll that was taken after the terror attacks in France. This is a poll that has taken place in the middle of the refugee situation and what we're going to do here in America. So we know how they're going to react. We know the sort of xenophobia that comes from these two men, and that is, frankly, selling among Republicans. I want to play a clip. The last clip of Ben Carson. Because Ben Carson refers to these refugees that are coming here running from certain death and war, are coming here to America, as many other refugees have done in the course of in the history of this country. And listen to how Ben Carson talks about them.
You love dogs and you love your children, but you know that there's a rabid dog out there. Well, you're going to bring your child in the house until you know that rabid dog has been taken care of.
All right, so he's referring to the refugees as rabid dogs. Or I should say, he's got this thing where he refers to them as rabbit dogs. You've got these rabbit dogs. Did you notice that? He says rabid like rabbit.
Yeah.
You've got these rabbit dogs. But these are women and children, young children. I hate to keep invoking the image of that 3-year-old boy lying face down dead on the beach who was trying to run and take a boat away from the horrors of his homeland. Ben Carson's calling that child a rabid dog. You know what we do with rabid dogs? We take them out back and shoot them. That's how we view these refugees who need our help. I want to play that Willie Nelson clip because CNN asked Willie Nelson, of all people, his thoughts about the refugees. And this is what listen to Willie Nelson, what he said about the refugees.
I don't care about refugees. Bring them all in. I don't care. I don't care about borders. We don't need no laws.
A lot of governors disagree with you. The majority of governors are saying, do not come to my state. And you say that's wrong.
Absolutely, it's wrong. It's what our big Statue of Liberty says. Come on in.
Yeah, he's right. That's why we have this big Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Right? This is where they come. We give them that opportunity. Oh, but these are Muslims or brown-skinned people. Oh, now we've got a problem with it. And if you think that this isn't all about people of another color, if you think this isn't all about Muslims or Middle Easterners coming over here to this country, Donald Trump yesterday advocated openly for a policy where all Muslims living in the United States would have to get a special ID and create a database for all Muslims living in America. I am not making that up. He was asked about it in an interview with Yahoo with our friend Hunter Walker, Texas Ranger. He was asked about this, and he said, that's something I would consider as president. I wouldn't rule that out. And later on in the day, somebody else asked him about it, and he says, as president, I will absolutely implement this policy. So this is the guy winning almost every single poll for the nomination for the Republican candidate for president. Are we really a better country? Are we really as good of a country as Hillary Clinton says we are? Are we really as good of a country as we like to think that we are? 866-55-PRESS is our telephone number. This is sick. It really bothers me. Yesterday, the House approved a bill that would block Syrian and Iraqi refugees from entering the country. Donald Trump says we need a special database for Muslim Americans. And meanwhile, you've got Ted Cruz and Jeb Bush running around saying only Christians can come in. I'm not sure that we are that kind of country. I'm not sure that we are as good of a country as we like to think we are. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. 866-557-7377. My name is Peter Ogburn. I am sitting in for Bill Press today. Would love to hear from you. We need your calls. Give us a ring. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
Like the
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Show.
Yes, it is the Bill Press Show. 27 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Taking your calls at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Very quick segment here, so let's get right to the phone with Lori in Philadelphia. Hi, Lori.
Good morning.
Good morning, my darling.
And I've been really upset about the refugees. And I think that rather than playing into ISIS's hands by demonstrating how ignorant we can be, we should use it for propaganda purposes, just like we did with the Cubans. Look at how miserable life is with ISIS, that these Muslims have to go through all the hell that they're going through just to escape them.
Yeah.
It's great propaganda.
Yeah, that's a good point, Laurie. I appreciate the call at 866-55-PRESS. On Twitter, NC Nomad makes a similar point. When have we ever been a great country? Look at St. Louis. Look at the Japanese internment camps. Look at Jim Crow. Look at slavery. Look at what we did to Irish. Look at what we did to Italians. Yeah, you know, our history's not so great on a lot of issues, but we have had some real, serious, shining moments where we welcome people to this country, and they've built great things. Built great lives for themselves here in America. Why can't we do this with these brown-skinned people? More calls coming up. Peter Ogburn in for Bill Press.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Akai Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. Unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I could just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in the city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Earth-alleluia.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is The Bill Press Show. 33 minutes past the hour here on this Friday, November 20th. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill today. Our phone number is 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. We're talking about the refugees and the comments from Hillary Clinton that we are a better country than all of this bickering and back and forth over whether or not we should take in the refugees. And I'm kind of saying I don't necessarily agree with that. I'd like to think we should be a better country. We should be good enough to say, absolutely, we will take all the refugees that we could possibly handle. By the way, does anybody remember like a month ago, 2 months ago, when we were first talking about this refugee situation, and President Obama said, oh, we're going to take in 10,000. And there were people go, 10,000? That's all? We can't take in more than that? We're a better country than that, Mr. President. You need to bring in more refugees. Oh, but now we've got a bill that says that they are going to block Syrian and Iraqi refugees from entering the country. That's how far we've swung that quickly. That's how great of a country we are. But you know, one of the things that makes the country so great, look, we are obviously a great country, but in the sense of helping these people out right now, this is embarrassing. Think about the optics. Think about what we're telling the rest of the world. One of the things that makes this country so great is that we can say things like, our country does not have a great track record when it comes to stuff like this. Cordell Garrett weighing in on Twitter, where we're tweeting at BP Show. African Americans were never welcome to the United States. We're still treated, in some cases, worse than slaves. Another commenter, we brought in the Chinese to build the cross-country railway and then hung them in California. Margaret Colvin, no, we're not better than that now. Some of us want it to be. It's during hard times when our mettle is revealed. Fear is not strength. All those great comments at BP Show. You want to hear some numbers about how we are as a country, how we view these refugees as a country, as a whole? A new poll from YouGov and the Puffington Post says 53% majority of Americans think that people who flee the war or political oppression should have the right to seek refuge in countries that are not their own. Okay. All right, that's good news, right? 53%, that's a majority, right? Okay, this is good. Oh, wait. 38% of Americans say the U.S. should take in refugees. 39% say that it should not, with the remainder of them unsure. It also goes on to show in this YouGov Huffington Post poll that Americans would rather send troops abroad than take in refugees at home. What does that say about us? Really and truly. I mean, what does that say about us? Does that say we're scared? This big, bad, great country of ours? Does that say that we're too scared to handle some of these women and children? Have the politics of fear actually seeped in deep enough to where we're so xenophobic that we can't let someone that doesn't look like us in here, into this country? 866-55-PRESS is our phone number, 866-557-7377. My buddy Ike in North Charleston, South Carolina. Ike, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Peter.
Hey, you guys,
how's it going, buddy?
You guys have a new mayor down there in Charleston, right?
Yeah, after 40 years of a Democratic mayor that, in a Republican state that everybody loved, we got a new mayor.
Yeah, I like Joe Riley. I hate to see Joe Riley go.
Yeah, he did a lot for Charleston.
Sure did.
He's tried to turn it into the Disneyland of the East Coast.
What's your take, man?
Yeah, well, okay, I'll just give you my take, what I'm hearing, and do this tongue-in-cheek. That's that damn Obama. He's trying to import his own Muslim army so he can take over the country. That's what I'm hearing. But, if they stop and think about it, and I always like to say this because I'm German, but, if it wasn't for the Germans, we'd probably be speaking German right now. What people fail to realize is just about every time we've had an influx, and even during a time of war, that we've had an influx of native populations from the countries they were displaced from, they turned around and were some of our best intelligence and fighters. Even if you go back to, for example, World War I, as far as our World War II, as far as how bad the Indians were trained or were treated, they were invaluable in the fight in World War II. Everybody knows the story of the Wind Talkers.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I'm trying to say is if you think that there's not a large portion of these people that are being displaced that want nothing more than to take back over their home country and will not be intelligent assets to us and won't help us, you don't know history because, like I say, they've been absolutely. Oh, and the other thing too, if you think you're going to close the borders, I don't know what you're smoking because for years you've been out there hiring Latinos and whatever, and they come across at will anytime they want.
Of course,
and you got to know the Syrians know how to get here. So, they're coming one way or the other, but I'd rather do it in a nice legal and, fashion to where we have some sort of semblance of an order to it rather than just willy-nilly because in Europe it's causing big trouble.
Yeah, that's a good take, Ike. By the way, I would encourage everybody to go and look at yesterday's show. We have them all archived at youtube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV. We had Igor Bobik in from the Huffington Post, whose family came here when he was about 7 or 8 years old. He was a Bosnian refugee, and he talks about the experience of being a refugee, fleeing a war, and coming here to this country. And it's a fascinating story. I encourage you all to go check that out at youtube.com/TawkrTV from yesterday's show, November 19th. Go check that out. I hit on an interesting point about sort of the hate of Obama and the conspiracy theories about Obama. Here's a real tweet that somebody blessed my timeline with yesterday from someone who I used to follow. Here is the Obama plan. Bring ISIS to America, call them refugees, wait for a mass casualty attack, and then declare martial law and take everyone's guns. That's a real thought out there. Is that the craziest thing you've ever heard?
That's an opinion and not something one of the candidates said.
That's not something that one of the candidates. That's like,
but it's everyday American.
Everyday American. This is how they think, right? But this is what happens when you keep talking about this illegitimate president, Obama, and the birth certificate and all this crap, right? Like, these are the conspiracy theories that you build up in people's heads. Someone wrote that, and they were serious, and they really, truly, are honestly thinking that this is something that could happen. If that's not the craziest thing you've ever heard. And yet, a lot of people believe it. David in Sacramento. What's happening, David?
Hey, how you doing? Good morning.
What's popping, man?
Hey, I get a couple points. I don't know why people are complaining we have 1 million people in our country that are Muslims, and for a country like France that got slapped in the face being hit by this ISIS, they're taking in, after this, 30,000 Muslims after they're being hit by their country. And, you know, if anybody wants to be fear and have fear of ISIS, fear of these Muslims, I have better idea for you people. The fact of the matter is, you want to be scared of somebody? Be scared of the GOP. Why don't you be scared of the guns that are in our country? You know, those are the ones you should be scared about. You know, as far as I'm concerned, what they or the pharmaceutical, or what the food that they put in our country, you know, what they put in our food, it's ridiculous.
Bill made this point yesterday, and I know a lot of other people have made it. This bill out of the House yesterday puts and enforces, even though the president's going to veto this, by the way, let's be clear about it, imposes security and background checks that are incredibly strict, incredibly long on any refugee that wants to enter this country, right? So innocent women and children, and some men, but women and children who want to come into this country legally to escape almost certain death, right? They'll put major background checks on that. Guns, gun access in this country, you want a gun? Go get it, man. Background checks, horrible idea. I don't know why we can't see this as a country. I can't understand why Republicans can't see this. The farce that this has become. The racist, poorly thought out logic. By the way, Ray, if a Republican calls in, front of the line. I want to hear from them if they could defend this, okay? I want to hear from anybody who could defend these actions against refugees that want to come to the country. I want to hear from them. They go front of the line. But for now, we're going to go to John in the OC, Orange County. What's happening, John?
Well, hi, Peter. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling, buddy.
Yeah, kudos to all of you guys and everybody, the whole crew.
Thanks, dude.
What kind of country are we? We're a country of retribution. We're a country of locking up drug offenders as long as possible. It's 3 strikes, you're out. We're a country of the death penalty. In a lot of cases, Rambo, we're going to go out and, get back at people as quick as we can. Guns in school, Bush, said you're either with us or you're a traitor. We got cops beating up people. Of course, not in the vast majority of cases. But there's no retribution. If you're a bankster, you get away with a complete financial catastrophe.
Yep.
There's no retribution if you're Bush and Cheney's, the bullies who preemptively bombed the country and a country that didn't attack us. And certainly, if you want petroleum and pollution to dominate our environment, nobody's hitting you hard. But, Peter, we have to decide that we can be better than that.
Yeah. That's a great call, John. That's a great call. We got to go just in the interest of time, but a phenomenal call from John in Orange County. Selective retribution, if you will. I guess that's one way to put it. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. Follow us at BP Show on Twitter, at BP Show. And I'm also tweeting at Peter Ogburn. You can follow us there. Quick break. We'll be right back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that would be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. And like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm not trying to be mean to Republicans necessarily. It's just these days they make it so easy. We talk about the dumb, uneducated Republican voter, right? And that's a stereotype that maybe shouldn't be played out so much. But then again, you've got dumb, uneducated candidates that are at the top of the Republican field, Donald Trump and Ben Carson. I've said before, Ben Carson's the dumbest genius we've ever seen in this country. The guy's a certified genius with his brain surgery and separating Siamese twins and things of that nature. But the guy's an idiot. Donald Trump is an even bigger idiot. So when we make fun of these dumb Republican voters, they just make it so easy. And it's so easy to just shoot through the hypocrisy of them running around saying, we're the greatest country in the world. You know why we're so great? Because we've allowed so many wonderful, different, multicultural people here. Right? That's who we are. That's what we are in this country. You think you think your family was just here and has been here forever? No, it's not how it works. You're here and you're making a wonderful life as a Republican congressman because somebody came across on a boat a couple years ago. All right? That's why. That's who we are. That's what we do as a country. And also, can we just point out the lunacy of, and this is a hard pivot, I understand, but when we're talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, and you hear, oh, well, we shouldn't be talking about Black Lives Matter because all lives matter. That's what really happens here. All lives matter. Oh, really? All lives matter? Uh-huh. Go on. You were saying all lives matter except for Syrian and Middle Eastern and Muslim refugees? Those lives don't seem to matter to you right now, do they? Yeah, all lives matter. Uh-huh. You keep spinning that yarn. You keep effing that chicken. Let's see how far that gets you. By the way, I'm going to do a little shop talk here. Because yesterday, a CNN reporter by the name of Elise Labat, she took to Twitter about this bill, this House bill that would keep Syrian and Iraqi refugees from entering the country, and she tweeted, quote, House passes bill that could limit Syrian refugees. Statue of Liberty bows head in anguish. End quote. So she tweeted that out, which I agree with, by the way. So this twerp from the Washington Post, Eric Wimple, he goes on this attack, right, of pointing this out and saying, what's her punishment going to be? Is she going to be punished? We need to find out what her punishment is going to be. And a few moments later, CNN suspended her for 2 weeks because she said that the Statue of Liberty bows head in anguish because we won't allow refugees here, which is something that we've always done and should be doing. 2 weeks. Now, it should be pointed out that Fareed Zakaria got popped for serial plagiarism on CNN. Oh, did he get suspended? He did, but for only 6 days. So, what's worse? Building a career on other people's work? Or actually voicing a cogent, thought-out opinion like we should be welcoming refugees to this country like we have always done? On top of that, mere moments after that story popped of her suspension, Politico, a group that we have, a publication we have on the show quite often, I should point out. A lot of good friends of Politico. We've got a Politico reporter coming up later on today's show. Politico announces that they've hired this new VP of communication named Brad Dayspring. You know who Brad Dayspring is? Brad Dayspring is the guy who was running Eric Cantor's communications department. He's a GOP strategist. He is a loudmouth on Twitter who hates the president, who bashes just about every Democrat, and is very vocal about being a hardcore conservative Republican. And he's going to be handling the communications for an unbiased political magazine website like Politico.
It's a balance thing.
Clearly there's been some balance, right? You've got this reporter for CNN who puts together a thoughtful comment on the state of affairs when it comes to Syrian refugees. And you've got this flame-throwing blowhard from the right wing who is now going to be heading up the communications department of the Politico. 53 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm going to be taking a quick break, and we'll be right back.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
57 minutes past the hour. So during the break, we're having this conversation. As I mentioned before, Thanksgiving is the king of holidays. It's the greatest holiday.
Almost.
And it's less than a week away.
That's true. So
this weekend begins prep work, right? If you're going to take this seriously, you got to start cooking and preparing this weekend, right?
Yeah.
So I'm here to help. The Ving hotline is wide open. All right, if you've got questions or concerns or need some recipes, holler at me, because I always do all of the Thanksgiving cooking by myself because I'll have it no other way, and I'm going to do it again this year, and I can tell you how to nail it every single year. Holler at me. All right, 866-55-PRESS. Thanksgiving, the greatest holiday that we experience each year. Christmas, number 4 on the list.
So. It's
Christmas
4th of July, number 2. What's number 3?
Oh, it's New Year's Day. No! What are you talking about? It's the greatest. Renewal? Oh, we'll discuss this further on the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in. Quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hi, everyone. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm filling in for Bill Press today on this Friday edition of the program, November 20th. Less than a week away to Thanksgiving, the greatest holiday. I'm not going to keep going on and on with this because you guys are getting pissed off at me because I keep talking about how great Thanksgiving is. During the break, all right, so Jamie Benson is running the board. Hi, Jamie.
What's happening, baby?
What's happening, baby? Ray Rogers is screening your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding is putting us on the TV. So Ray says to me, bottom 3 holidays? One of them is 4th of July. Are you kidding? 4th of July is the greatest. It's in order, all right? Thanksgiving is number 1 by a mile. By a mile, all right? Number 2, 4th of July, easily. And then number 3, little sleeper holiday, New Year's Day. New Year's Day. And then Christmas.
No one looks at New Year's Day like that.
Huh?
No one looks at New Year's Day like that.
I do.
What do you do on New Year's Day?
I do. I make collard greens. I make black, and I make Hoppin' John, right, which is tradish. And I reflect, and I look forward because it's all about renewal. New things, Jamie.
Yet everybody else in America is recovering from a hangover.
I'm usually pretty hung on New Year's Day, but that you move forward, right?
Right.
You eat some collard greens and some Hoppin' John, and maybe a Bloody Mary, and then you're good. And then you have to worry about like work coming up in just a couple of days.
Do you sing the New Year song? The Latin one?
The Old Lang Syne?
Yeah.
No, I can't. No, I'm not like that.
Yeah, I don't.
Not until they translate it to American. Then I'll sing. And then Christmas is number 4. Here's the deal. This is why Thanksgiving is so great. Thanksgiving is so much better than Christmas. Christmas, all the obligations. You got to go here. You got to go there.
What you're trying to say is that you hate your kids.
The Christmas has become infinitely better since I had kids, right, by the way, because that's the greatest is watching them experience Christmas. Well, like, look, when you're a kid, it's obviously great, but then you have the period where you don't have kids, and it's like, But then it gets better when you have kids. But my point is, you got to run around, you got to go to a bunch of dumb parties, most of them suck. You got to go see family, or family's got to come to you.
I will say December holiday parties are a pain.
Jamie, I'm right on this. I'm shocked that you don't see this. Like, I'm amazed that I have to actually convince you. Everything that comes out of my mouth is the truest thing you've ever heard. You've got to go buy a bunch of stuff, sometimes for people you don't even care about, right? Because you know they're going to give you something. Right, I keep it tight on Christmas. Right, I don't go anywhere unless I have to. I don't get to go see my dumb family, like extended family. I just keep it low key. Thanksgiving, we got some friends coming over. I'm doing all the cooking. We're gonna eat a bunch of food. We're gonna drink too much, and then we're gonna watch TV. Done.
Mediocre football.
Plus you get mediocre football. Plus you get the killerest leftovers. Right, I make my annual gumbo, which is the hardest. It's the greatest. So I'm glad that I've all converted you all into recognizing that Thanksgiving is the greatest holiday. And like I said, I do all the cooking every year. So if anyone wants to call me and give me tips or get some tips, I'm here for you, baby. I'll tell you exactly what to do. I do the whole thing myself every year. Margaret Colvin tweeted at me, "Our husband smokes the turkey every year while I make the fixins. I put an onion in the turkey cavity to give it moist, tender breasts." Pause. Look, I don't go with anything in the cavity because it creates too much steam and it overcooks the bird. So there you go. I'll do this all day long, but we got more important things to talk about. Like my good friend Neda Semnani. Neda is on Twitter at Neda, Neda _Semnani. She is a wonderful writer and has written some very good stuff for TheWeek.com. Hi, Neda.
Hello, Peter.
What's new, pussycat?
Oh, just hanging out.
Yeah?
By the way, you are correct about Thanksgiving.
Of course I'm correct about Thanksgiving.
I mean, you're correct about almost everything.
Thank you.
Thanksgiving, I think, is your most correct thing.
Best guest ever, guys. Can we just keep Neda on the whole show?
Jamie, I'm kidding. He's right about like 7% of the things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But that's a pretty good. I mean, in batting average,
That's really
batting
good.
average, that's not so bad. All right, Neda, it wasn't so long ago that you were here in D.C. and then you up and went to Paris for a little while, and you lived in Paris. And you did some wonderful writing for theweek.com, including a piece that you just wrote this week. Remember the Paris of our dreams, not the Paris of our nightmares. And Paris is a complicated city when we talk about issues like this because they've got some of the hostility that we have here in America only amplified, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, I want to kind of do a caveat on this. I'm not, when I was living in Paris, I was writing in Paris, but I was writing mainly about Americans in Paris and kind of our history with the city. And so I did a lot of research and reporting kind of going back to the beginning of our republic and how kind of tightly wound our two nations were, France and America, but specifically America and Paris, which I always felt like was a very interesting, it is a very interesting relationship. And as much as France and Parisian and French culture has shaped America, we as a country and as individuals have shaped this particular city, which is an ancient, old, and beautiful city. But to answer your question, yes, Paris has, I don't know that it's more complicated than what we have. I don't think that at all. I think it's hard to say as Americans that we have a simplified version of race. I think what we can say is that it seems a bit complicated because ultimately we're foreigners in that land. It is, the racism is prevalent, and it is it's complicated. I would say insidious, but the racism is, like any ism is insidious. That's just how othering people works, because it happens, I think, so subtly. In France, I think, or in Paris, what my experience is that it's less subtle than it is here, and by that I mean, I think when we think of America and racism and separating people, whether it's by race or ethnicity or socioeconomic class, it's a thing that we've already done. We've done it for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So, or maybe not that long, but since we've been around. And in Paris, I think one of the things that was so shocking to me was, walking through the streets and seeing how the Roma are treated, or listening to the way people talk about specifically North Africans. And, there's just, it feels different than here. However, I will tell you that it's the one place on earth that I think that African American men are literally the coolest. And and by the coolest, I mean they are, I couldn't figure out if it was almost fetishizing, like the cool, the popular culture cool. And I think there's probably an element to that, but it's also, African Americans are such a big part, especially in the 20th century, of French popular culture.
That's interesting.
And, but having said that, this is where it becomes like, it starts folding in on itself. Having said that, this is a imperialist country that went to Africa, places where Africans, Black people in America have come from, and there is this kind of cartooning of those countries and those people, just classically. So, I mean, it is like a fascinating country, a fascinating city. There's movies that get released in France that would have no chance in the U.S. And when you watch them as an American, it's shocking, just because our rhetoric is so different.
Yeah, I want to ask you for a second about some of the iconography of Paris, right? Because you write about the icons that when we think of Paris, we think of these things. We know the way of life. We know the things that are around Paris, and sort of how that played into something as vile as what happened a week ago.
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
So, like, when we look at the attacks on Paris, was this attack on the Parisian way of life, right? Like,
right. Well, so I've been talking about this obviously since it happened. And one of the things I thought was so interesting was that we keep going back to is that it's changed. I think I'm not an expert on terrorism, but it's changed the way at least everyday people like you and me, think about what terrorist targets are. And there was something rather brilliant, I felt like, about this particular attack and how they did it. Because they didn't go after the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre, and nothing happened on the Seine, and the Notre Dame is in one piece. Sacré-Cœur is still there. Like, you still have all of those things. What you have are, music venues or cool restaurants in, parts of the city that are where, Peter, people like, well, you before kids, but no, I'm kidding. Where you and me would go out for a drink. I mean, I would hang out there all the time when I lived in Paris. And I think that changes the equation. However, what it does for those of us that are outside of Paris and outside of France, what I was trying to get at my piece is they've somehow with this attack, because it's an iconic place, and I think this happened, to probably a greater extent just because of the scale of the attack with 9/11. But when you attack places where people have fantasies, where like if my refuge was for the past however many years, closing my eyes, and when things were too hard, I would go to France, and nothing bad can happen in my fantasies there, right? Like nothing. And a friend of mine does work around with kids with trauma in New York City, and we were talking last night about how often Paris comes up when they close their eyes, and we were talking about whether or not they ever thought they could get to Paris. But it's a dream place as much as it is a physical place, and yet this attack happened. And so, what happens when something traumatic like that, like a terrorist attack, coordinated terrorist attack, happens, or any act of terror, in a place where all of us can imagine, is that the trauma transfers. I think I can close my eyes, and suddenly this beautiful, beautiful place that I would go to in my dreams as my safe place, or for these kids as their place of, aspiration, is suddenly not that. And I think it will get back to that. I mean, it's still a different culture than what we have here. I don't know, but I don't think that it's going to have the same, I just don't see guns being on the streets in the same way, or like as a part of that culture in the same way as it is here. So I still think that acts of violence, when they happen, will be a shock. But in a way that's different than America's. But I do think that this thing has happened, and it's gone past borders. And what I said in my piece is that it's gone past borders, both physical and psychic.
All right, Neda. Thank you so much for joining us. Neda Semnani. You can follow her on Twitter at Neda_Semnani, Neda. And we've tweeted out a link to your piece for the week at BP Show. Go check it out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter. I'll see you soon.
For sure. Yeah, let me know when you're back in town. And do go follow her, because she is the best. 20 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. Very quick break, and we'll be right back.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains into the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, indeed. It is the Bill Press Show. Friday, November 20th. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. So many things to talk about. So much news happening this week. But most importantly, we're less than a week away from the greatest holiday, Thanksgiving. And I've opened up the Thanksgiving hotline at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Pat in Chicago is giving us a call. Pat, what's happening? Come on, Pat, where you at? Hello, Pat.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, that's right, Pat, Chicago, right?
My name's Bob.
All right, Bob, what's your take, man? Sorry.
Turkey gumbo. Turkey gumbo. I agree with you on that. Just curious, do you use leftover stuffing instead of rice?
I don't use leftover stuffing. No, I don't. Turkey in general is a fairly bland, boring bird, and yet makes the most wonderful stock.
Yes, it does.
So when you're done with your Thanksgiving turkey, it's a little awkward to make sure that everybody at the table keeps their bones, right? Like if someone gets a leg, you got to make sure you get that bone back.
Right.
What I do is I take all the carcass, put it in the biggest pot that I have, and then I put it in the oven at 250, and I leave it there overnight, right? And it just cooks and cooks and cooks, and it doesn't get any lower because you're not cooking any of the water off or anything like that. And then you take it out the next morning, you skim the fat off, and then you strain it all really well, and you've got the most luxurious stock, and it makes the most wonderful gumbo. But
betcha.
using the stuffing is a pro move, man. I like that.
Yeah, it's depending on the stuffing, it adds another level of texture to it too.
By the way, for the record, I'm from the South. We call it dressing, not stuffing. I don't know where you fall on this whole thing because I don't actually stuff the blade. I cook it separately.
Right. Yeah. I've had it both ways. So.
All right. Good stuff, Bob. I appreciate the phone call. Yeah, he knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing. Yeah, don't stuff the bird. Don't stuff the bird because what happens is, first of all, think of the inside of a turkey's ass, right? That's where you're going. And you're stuffing all this bread up in there. It's going to soak up all that stank, all that scum that's in there, right? Number one. Number two, it's only going to make the time you have to cook the turkey longer, right? Because it just adds to the general weight. So you're going to cook it even more. Hard pass. You don't do the stuffing, you do the dressing. And also, everyone's going to tell you got to brine your turkey, right? Brine your turkey. Don't brine your turkey. You don't need to brine your turkey. What you do is you hit it with a salt and pepper about an hour before you cook it. And that gives you that crispy skin, right? Because that salt draws out all that moisture, right? Because when you brine it, you get this soggy bird, and then it leaches out all that salty piss liquid, right? It makes your gravy too salty, right? And then it's just like this mushy breast when you cut it up. I like a good roast bird, right? I'm telling you, I've got the Thanksgiving meal down. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. We're talking to David Graham from The Atlantic coming up next. He's done some wonderful writing on ISIS and on the refugee situation. We're going to talk to him here coming up in just a few moments. David Graham from The Atlantic. Meanwhile, my name is Peter Rogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Very quick break, and we'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I'm playing.
I love that you love to talk about it.
I love it. I love Thanksgiving so hard. Frank in Asheville, North Carolina. What's happening, Frank?
Hey, Peter. I love you guys, but we call it Thanksgiving.
What does that mean?
That means that we don't slaughter and kill turkeys. Instead, we look at eating plant-based meat.
Bye, Frank. Let's go to David Graham from the Atlantic. You kidding me? You're going to call up and talk about tofurkey? No. You get off my phone. David Graham from the Atlantic. You can follow him at Graham David A. Hi, David.
What's up, Peter?
Are you as excited for Thanksgiving as I am?
Well, now that I've heard about the turkey gumbo, maybe. I'm not really a turkey fan, but the gumbo I can maybe mess with.
Here's the thing. Turkey as a protein is a fairly bland, flavorless bird, right? It's not that great, but it's tradition, and I get it. But turkey stock is one of the most wonderful things in the world. Like, it's worth buying and roasting a turkey just to have the stock afterwards. I'm telling you, it's wonderful.
All right, I'll take that under advisement.
Yeah, my tip to you. And get out of here with the tofurkey stuff, Frank. All All right. So, David, you done some great writing here in The Atlantic, as you always do, about ISIS. We are currently, it's jumped to the forefront more than ever. Hillary Clinton yesterday giving a big speech and outlining her plan to defeat ISIS. And the head of, the title of one of your latest pieces, The Democrats' ISIS Dilemma. What is the ISIS dilemma for Democrats, David?
So, before these speeches, definitely true, and I think even since the speeches, what you see is the Republicans are really taking the lead on talking about ISIS. They have lots of plans, some of them not especially realistic, but they have things to say. Democrats largely have said what they're against. They're not for major ground troops. They're all these things, but they don't really have a good idea of what they want to do. And I think that speaks to the weaknesses of both Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders on the issue of ISIS.
Yeah, I said this earlier. Hillary Clinton yesterday talking about ISIS didn't change the strategy from President Obama, but certainly laid it out, I think, more effectively. I think that's the most effective I've seen a Democrat talk about ISIS yet.
Yeah, I think that's right. But even then, you saw a lot of people, I feel like, were mocking the specifics, which were John Podesta tweets out his checklist of things, and it's defeat ISIS.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's the idea. That it can't be the first item on the checklist.
Right. Yeah. How to defeat ISIS? Number 1, defeat ISIS in Syria. That's literally how it was written.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point too, which is that she articulates the case better, but it's she's trying to say, well, I have a different plan than President Obama, and in fact, it's a fairly similar plan. Doesn't mean it's a bad plan, but it doesn't make for good politics, since people think Obama's strategy is failing.
So on the other side of the aisle, the Republicans, when they're talking about their plan to defeat ISIS, what are we seeing there? Let's talk about the two frontrunners, Donald Trump and Ben Carson.
What is Ben Carson talking about?
I don't know. I really don't know. From day to day, he's the hardest person to understand where his thought process is. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I said Ben Carson is the dumbest genius we've ever had in this country, because he's a certified genius. I mean, the guy, knows. Or to quote Donald Trump, he was a pretty good doctor, I guess. But I don't understand what he's saying when he talks.
I think he's just not interested in foreign policy per se, and I think that comes through in the way he talks about it and the fact that he hasn't often bothered really to seem to learn much about it.
Yeah. And what about Donald Trump?
Oh, man. I'm just seeing this morning these quotes Trump gave late last night about rounding up Muslims. Did you see this?
I did.
Yeah. He asked how his plan would differ from registering Jews in Nazi Germany. His answer was, "You tell me."
Oh, my God.
It's just really something.
Yeah, this story we talked about a little earlier because our friend Hunter Walker, Texas Ranger, interviewed Donald Trump and asked him about sort of a database for Muslims. And he goes, yeah, that's something I would be open to doing. And then later on, doubled down and said he will absolutely implement this if he is president. A database and an ID specifically just for Muslims. And so, when I see that, I think that's clearly crazy. But at the same time, it might actually work for Donald Trump.
Yeah, it totally fits in with a lot of the rhetoric he has delivered. This is a great moment for him in some ways politically, because he's been anti-immigrant all along, and suddenly the rest of the Republican Party is hustling to be as anti-immigrant, anti-refugee as they can be, and Trump's been there all along. And I just don't know how to, you hear a statement like this, which is, you would imagine offensive to many people and clearly unconstitutional. But how many times have we said, well, Trump's gone too far this time. This will surely be the end of it, and it never is.
If I haven't gone on record yet, I want to make sure I go on record here. I think Donald Trump is going to be the nominee from the Republican Party. I really do. I'm not kidding. Because I don't see anybody catching him, and it's just too sort of... everybody else's position is just that has a chance, I think, is a little too watered down on immigration stuff, and this is clearly what's playing for him.
Yeah, and we've been saying all along, there's going to come a time when Trump's numbers are going to sink. NBC News poll this morning has Trump regaining his lead, Carson sinking. So it's got to happen eventually if it's going to happen, and it certainly hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. Let's talk a little bit about this attack in France, because you also had another piece, The Mysterious Life and Death of Abdelhamid Abaoud, the mastermind of the attacks in Paris. We know he is dead, but what do we know about how he got to where he was and pulled this off?
He's just a fascinating character. In some ways he fits the mold of a lot of the folks we've seen carrying out these attacks. His parents are from Morocco, but wasn't raised in a very religious household, kind of a ne'er-do-well kid, involved in petty crime, and then suddenly got really involved in Islam and then went to Syria. But he's got investigators have connections to a ton of attacks. There was a raid in January in Belgium that was meant to capture him that didn't work. There was the shooting on the train that the 3 Americans spoiled this summer, connected to that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's said to have planned an attack in Paris. There's that, and there's also just this amazing stuff about him slipping back and forth between Syria and Belgium, which he did, it seems like, twice. He recruited his 13-year-old brother to come to Syria to fight with him. It's just really amazing.
To me, the most fascinating thing is that a lot of these guys were on the radar. They didn't just pop up out of nowhere. They were on the radar, so there's a lot of intelligence failures that they're going to have to look at here in the coming weeks.
Well, and there's just sort of you see the human failures in the network, too. So he gave an interview to the ISIS magazine when he was back in Syria the first time.
The ISIS magazine, by the way.
Yeah, ISIS magazine. It's very cleanly produced and full of horrifying pictures.
I believe it.
But the layout is good, I'll say that.
Yeah.
He was asked how he made it from, after this raid, how he made it back to Syria, or how he made it back into Belgium, rather. And he said, they had pictures of my face, and the officer looked at me, and he just didn't make the connection. He didn't recognize that it was me. You see all these places where just one overlooked thing makes a lot of difference.
Holy cow, that's terrifying. All right, follow him on Twitter at Graham David A., a very, very talented writer for The Atlantic. And also, every now and then, they let you write about music and stuff, which I love, David. So,
well, thank you. I like that.
Keep doing what you're doing. TheAtlantic.com and Graham David A. on Twitter. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. We'll be right back.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
Same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show, 46 minutes past the hour, Friday, November 20th. Less than a week away from Ving, the greatest holiday. I look, Frank in Asheville, I'm sorry. I don't mean to come across as a jerk. But, like, get out of here with the tofurkey business. I'm not even anti-vegetarian or vegan. Good for you. That's a smart way to live your life. But tofurkey, don't do that to tofu or to turkey. That's terrible.
Just go get Chinese on.
Go get Chinese, or look, roast some squash. Right?
That's a good idea.
Roast squash is delicious, legitimately delicious, and all kinds of root vegetables. Come on, you could be vegan and not eat that garbage. Garbage. Bland up in Chicago. What's happening, Bland?
Hi, I wanted to know, my mother made cornbread dressing too, and I love it.
Oh, yes.
I wanted to know, did you add pork sausage, breakfast pork sausage to your cornbread dressing?
I use andouille sausage, Bland. I use andouille sausage. It's a little harder, firmer than the regular sausage, but you got to slice it up real nice into little chunks, and that's how I do it. And by the way, I go little chunks of bacon and bacon grease in my cornbread in the actual batter in the batter. So it's a pork overload. I'm gonna tell you,
it sure is. All right.
All right, thank you, Bland. That's a good call. Chicago, man, they know how to eat out there. I knew Bland would know what she was talking about. Yeah, I go andouille sausage in my dressing, right? You make the cornbread, then you sweat your vegetables. Right? You crumble it up, put it all in there with your andouille sausage. Oh, so good.
I'm taking notes.
I'm telling you, you want to cook, you want to impress, you want to cook the whole Thanksgiving dinner. I got you. I know what I'm doing. And get that Benton's bacon, too, that smoky Benton's bacon.
Endorse.
Yo, that's the killerest cornbread you're ever going to make. All right, taking your calls on Thanksgiving all day long at 866-55-PRESS, but also lots of news to talk about. Talking to David about some of the ISIS stuff with Hillary Clinton addressed yesterday. She also talked about refugees, the refugee situation. And here's what she had to say yesterday at her speech.
Turning away orphans, applying a religious test, discriminating against Muslims, slamming the door on every Syrian refugee. That is just not who we are. We are better than that.
I mean, I'd like to think that she's right. I really would like to think that she's right. We are better than that. Maybe she should have said we should be better than that, right? Or we should try and be better than that. Because when you look at the news today, oh boy, here's a poll. Americans would rather send troops abroad than take in refugees at home. This is the Puffington Host YouGov poll. 38% of Americans say the U.S. should take in refugees. 39% say that we should not. So the majority of Americans, slightly, think that we should not take in any refugees, but that we would rather go to war with ISIS. We're looking at the two top front runners for the GOP nomination. We're talking about Donald Trump and Ben Carson. In just about every poll, a new poll here. This is the one that was Bloomberg. Trump at 24%, Ben Carson at 20%. Also an NBC News poll, Trump at 28%, Carson at 18%. Both of these polls taken after the attacks in Paris, after some of that nasty rhetoric has started to heat up about refugees and what we should do. Here's where the Republicans stand on this. And you can say not every Republican, and that's fair. But I can say the two leading contenders for the Republican nomination feel this way. Donald Trump yesterday said that he thinks we should have Muslims, and that as president, he would implement an ID system so that we could have a database of all Muslims living in this country. I wonder what the ID would look like. I wonder if he should put I don't know, like maybe like a little yellow star they have to wear on. Maybe they should do that. Has that been done before?
Maybe a tattooed barcode?
Maybe a tattooed barcode like on their wrist.
On the wrist, yeah.
That's a good idea,
Good.
Jamie. That's what
Good.
we should do to all Muslims under this Donald Trump plan. Donald Trump also talking about immigrants and sort of doubling down on what we would do with refugees. He brings up an idea that killed Mitt Romney, self-deportation.
What's going to happen is when the people are told they have to go home because they're here illegally, same thing has happened with President Eisenhower in 1954. They said, you have to go, you have to go. As soon as they said that, most of the people just left. That's what's going to happen.
This is, again, he brings up this Eisenhower plan, which we've talked about. At the time, it was called Operation Wetback. And we gathered up Mexicans who were here in this country, and drove them back across the border in overheated cars, killing several of them, by the way, as far away as we could from the border. It was a blight, or it remains a blight on American history, something that we should be vowing to never repeat. And yet Donald Trump is running around boasting that he's going to have a plan similar to that. And you talk about the refugees, Ben Carson, listen to how he refers to them as.
You love dogs and you love your children, but you know that there's a rabid dog out there. Well, you're going to bring your child in the house until you know that that rabid dog has been taken care of.
What's so funny about that? Why is he laughing? And are we really referring to these men, women, and children who are fleeing their war-torn country as rabid dogs? Or rabbit dogs? What's a rabbit dog? We got these rabbit dogs.
You've heard of cat dog.
Cat dog. Cat dog.
A little fusion now.
We got a rabbit. These people are rabbit dogs. Oh, boy. I mean, congratulations, guys. When we talk about the dumb, uninformed Republican voter as a stereotype, which might get played around with too much, we might talk about it too much as a stereotype. You're doing it to yourselves. These are the guys that are winning. These are the front runners. So anybody that makes fun of the dumb, uninformed, stupid Republican voter as a stereotype, every joke is rooted in a little bit of reality. You guys, this is your Republican Party. Who else, by the way? Who's the face of the Republican Party? Democrats can point to Barack Obama. He's the leader of the Republican Party, about to hand that baton off to Hillary Clinton. Who do Republicans point to? Reince Priebus? Mitt Romney? No. It's Ben Carson and Donald Trump. They're the leading candidates for president on the Republican side. 866-55-PRESS. 866-557-7377. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like it back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn sitting in for Bill Press today. Next hour, ladies' night. Lauren French from Politico joins us, and Emma Roller from the New York Times, both coming in the studio. By the way, a situation's been happening all morning. We're going to talk about really quickly because there's still so few concrete details. But at the Radisson Hotel in Mali, apparently 10 gunmen walked in with AK-47s, have taken 170 hostages. That number is fluid. Some of them have been released. Some airline employees have been let go, and some others have been rescued. So we're not sure what the total number is, but it was as many as 170. And they were going floor to floor of this hotel with guns. We'll keep you posted on who they are and what's happening there as we learn it. But again, it's happening as we speak. So one of those things we're just going to kind of watch and monitor and bring you what we know. The Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn sitting in for Bill Press. Quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together. And it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this. Because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, indeed. It is The Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today, finally Friday edition of The Bill Press Show, November 20th. How the hell did we make it November 20th, by the way? Holy cow. We are streaming live video at youtube.com/TawkrTV and broadcasting audio on your favorite progressive radio station or the TuneIn app or the iHeartRadio app. Any way you can get your hands on the show, we're happy to have you here. Run of the board today is Jamie Benson, Lord of the Board.
Morning, sir.
Hello, Jamie. Thank you so much for coming in today. Screening your calls at 866-55-PRESS. What?
You didn't think I was going to make it?
Well, you know, you never know with you.
I had a late night last night.
I know. I was worried for you. Screening the calls at 866-55-PRESS is Ray Rogers, standing by to take your calls. And putting us on the video screen is Cyprian Bolding, running the cameras and doing what he does. We are lucky enough to be joined by Lauren French, congressional reporter for Politico. Read her good work at Politico.com and follow her on Twitter at LaurenInFrench. Hi, Lauren.
Hey, good morning.
So we're less than a week away.
From the biggest holiday of
the greatest holiday.
The greatest.
Thank you so much. I've been having this conversation with everybody in studio all day. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday by a mile.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt, it is the best.
Wow, that's so. That makes me so happy to hear you. Second place?
4th of July.
4th of July!
Because I'm a good American.
That's right!
But
what's not to love about 4th of July? They're all telling me. Ray says 4th of July is in her bottom 3 holidays.
Well, she should go to Russia.
Yeah. How about that? How about that? Ray?
I'm just saying, Thanksgiving's great. It's family. You get like amazing food. You get to be thankful for things. And it's wonderful. And it's a nice breakup for the fall.
Yep.
And if those things weren't true, if Thanksgiving was in March, it would probably drop to second for me.
Agreed.
But July 4th is awesome. America, love it. Hot dogs, great. But there's just something about Thanksgiving. It's warm. It's great. Everyone, gets along for the most part. It's perfect.
I'm with you. 100%. You're speaking right to me. I've also opened up the Thanksgiving hotline. If anybody has any questions or concerns or tips, call me. I cook Thanksgiving every year by myself. I've got it down pat. I know I'll do some food writing on the side, so I know what I'm doing. You doing the cooking this year?
I am. I am going to Chicago to visit my family. And
Chicago knows how to eat.
Oh, yeah, we know how to eat. Mm-hmm. Midwestern women know how to eat. Mm-hmm. 25 people, 2 turkeys, a roast, and a ham, along with some side dishes, all from this one.
You making it all?
All making it all.
Hot damn.
Yeah.
There goes our turkey. There's our turkey. There's the Thanksgiving turkey live in the studio. There he goes.
That noise could stop.
Yeah. So, you do pies? Do you do the pie thing?
We do pies. So, we do 2 pumpkin, a pecan, which is my personal favorite.
God bless you for saying pecan right, too. This is my life's work, right?
Pecan?
It's pecan like recon.
Yes.
Don't forget it.
And then we do a chocolate and a cherry.
Yeah, man, I'm loving this.
Yeah, you gotta come up.
What are your not miss sides? What do you make what are your sides you gotta have?
So I love doing a from scratch, even like making your own fried onions, green bean casserole.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of like a balsamic glazed with pancetta Brussels sprouts.
Okay. You hearing this, Jamie?
I'm with the pancetta and the Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, all aboard.
Glaze,
I love that.
I love it.
And then what else do we do that I really, I mean, like mashed potatoes always.
Yeah.
Because you put a lot of cream in them, you put some yogurt in there, they're all fluffy, it's perfect.
Tons of butter.
Tons of butter. And then this year, my family loves those crescent rolls. It's like a zombie apocalypse for the last crescent roll. So hopefully they're not listening, which they do listen.
Okay.
And especially when
And
I'm
whatever
on,
she's about to say, she says in love.
I say love. I'm going to make my own this year, and it's possible that's going to get me excommunicated.
If you mess those up, can you imagine? Can you imagine?
Whole meal could be perfect. Prime rib's going to come out great. The turkeys are going to be perfect. They're going to be like, yeah, but these are not as good as Pillsbury's.
All right, I'm going to give you a little piece of advice.
Yeah.
Go buy a couple of dummy cans of Pillsbury.
Just in case.
Just in case something happens, you've got them on hand.
Oh, yeah, because I would be out in the cold. They'd be like, you were hitchhiking back to O'Hare.
Yeah,
Leave
you're done.
now.
Yeah, you're done. You're done. Where do we stand on sweet potato casserole? We're going to talk congressional stuff in a second. Where do you stand on sweet potato casserole?
So I'm a fan of sweet potato casserole. I like sweet potatoes to begin with, but instead of I'm switching it up this year. I'm doing a sweet potato au gratin.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I
Okay.
like to mess it up every once in a while and just do it, but because most of my family doesn't like it, but the people who do love the sweet potato casserole like die for it. So
I go full redneck and I put schmallows on mine.
yeah,
I got to do the marshmallows on mine, and then a little sorghum. I put the sorghum in there with some orange zest.
nice.
So good.
God, see, this is why it's the best holiday.
It's the greatest.
You get to plan this all out. You get
I
to
know.
experiment a little bit.
I know.
Where are you on brining? Dry or?
All right, I'm big anti-brining.
Whoa.
I'm big on anti-brining.
So are you a baster?
I'm a baster. I'm a baster, not a briner. Here's the deal, though. Here's what you got to do to make it work. You got to salt it and pepper it about an hour before you put it in the oven.
Yeah.
Because that helps crisp up the skin, dries the skin out a little bit. If you brine it, it gets mushy, and then you get all that salty stuff, and it gets in the gravy. It's too much for the gravy. It makes bad gravy when you use the brine.
Oh, see, I just disagree. I do a dry brine. And then I do
Okay.
it the night before, or
Okay.
the day before, let it sit in, and then you wrap it in a saran wrap.
Mhm.
Sit in there. Generally, you kind of like dust off some of the extras.
Okay.
But it gives it a really nice, especially you lift up the skin and put butter in the brine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
And I think it makes a delicious gravy.
Okay.
And I'm
The dry brining is the difference, I think. Because
Yeah.
people who submerge it do the wet brine. I'm not here for that.
Yeah, but
It's mushy.
I don't like to baste it. I think I'm not a baster, so because I don't want to open up the oven to lower the cook
That's it.
time. So I'm a briner.
All right. I'm with you. You learned something in there, Jamie?
Yeah.
You
Still
I'm telling
taking
you.
notes. Still
you can
taking
take this
notes in there.
home, and you're going to impress some people with what you've learned
All
about
right.
Ving.
Yeah.
All right?
I thank you guys.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, let's switch gears because yesterday we got
Do
some
we have
news.
to?
I know. Look. I could talk about this all day. This is near and dear to my heart.
Just one more thing. One thing I learned.
Go ahead.
Not a baster. You're not a baster.
I'm not a baster?
No, she's not.
Oh, she's
I'm
not a
not.
baster. I'll baste. Yeah, I will baste. All right. Yesterday, here's the headline: House approves the Syrian refugee bill. Explain this bill and what it means. What's the point of this refugee bill?
So it was a bill sponsored by McCall and Rich Hudson. And what it's doing is it's going to temporarily pause the influx of Syrian refugees coming into the United States until they can beef up the vetting program. So right now, refugees coming in from Syria, and it's for Syria and Iraq actually, they go through about an 18-month process. They get medical exams, family history is done, they're doing interviews with Department of Homeland Security, with the FBI. But the concern a lot of Republicans and even some Democrats had was it wasn't enough. There's no way for us or for the U.S. to go and check in Syria because the Syrian government is obviously quite in shambles at this present moment. So there's no back and forth coming in where you can check Syria, do you have them on a terrorist list? Because they're not keeping a terrorist list. They're not an ally, obviously. And that concerned a lot of lawmakers. So what they're doing now is they're going to have multiple agency heads certify that everyone coming in has gone through this check and isn't a threat to national security based on every intelligence the U.S. has.
How is this bill going to be received by the Obama administration?
They threatened to veto it. They were up on Capitol Hill yesterday. Dennis McDonough, Jay Johnson were really trying to whip House Democrats against the bill. They think that it's stopping, it's unnecessary, burdensome, that it'll stop Syrian refugees from coming in, the ones who need to be coming in. So they've threatened to veto it. It's likely more than not this bill is not going to get to the president's desk.
Okay.
The Senate has said that they're not going to take it up outside the context of an omnibus, which means the Senate would put together their own bill and then it'll likely either go to conference or totally get derailed. But this is really amping up pressure on the Senate and then the House for that omnibus, that spending bill, and it could lead to another government shutdown because you're talking to Republicans who are saying that they would not be for an omnibus spending bill if it didn't include similar language to the McCall-Hudson bill.
Can we? I want to get more into that omnibus stuff in just a second, but I want to park on the what this bill blocks, right? And in comparison to what we have now, right? What it's asking for in terms of background checks compared to what we have now, because we do have a system now that's fairly efficient for bringing refugees into the country. How is this different exactly? What's the meat of that?
The main crux is that it would require department heads to certify that everyone has gone through these background checks. Right now, there's only a one certification system, and that's really the big crux. Is they want everyone. We always, after 9/11, after big terrorist attacks, there's all that talk that intergovernment agencies weren't cooperating with each other, weren't communicating with each other. So this is, kind of not coming from that, but in that vein, they want the government to be working together, and these agencies who are all talking, sometimes past one another, to say, all right, Department of Homeland Security checks off on individual A, so does the FBI, checks off on it. And it would also require that they give a certification to Congress about who's coming in and doing a briefing for them.
I want to talk about Paul Ryan. Jamie, if you could grab that second Paul Ryan clip, because he talked about the partisan divide on this. We know that 47 Democrats voted for this Syrian refugee bill. How does this play out?
We didn't think of party labels when we mourned for France. We should do the same thing when protecting our country.
So when it comes to a partisan divide here, how is Paul Ryan doing with Republicans on this issue? Because we knew it was going to be kind of a rocky relationship. It was set up that way. What kind of support does he have? He
had very broad support. Only 2 Republicans voted against this bill, Walter Jones and Steve King of Iowa. But
I'm going to guess it was because he didn't go far enough.
Yes, right, in both cases. In both cases, they didn't go far enough. But generally, Republicans were really happy with this process. The French attacks were last Friday, a week ago. And by Saturday, as my colleagues Jake Sherman and John Bresnahan reported, Kevin McCarthy and Paul Ryan were already working on a response. Ritz Hudson had a bill come up. They worked with McCall, who is the chairman, to beef up the bill a little bit more. So by the time lawmakers returned for late votes on Monday night, there was already a sketch of a plan in place. They were they were responding to it. Ryan was willing to work with Democrats. He and Nancy Pelosi, the minority leader, had calls back and forth. But overall, Republicans were really happy with how he handled this, and they just want to make sure that in this government spending bill, they continue to push for some sort of beefed up security program. And that's going to be the real next test. But the omnibus was going to be a test for Paul Ryan, whether the Syrian crisis, whether the French attacks happened at all.
So let's talk about that omnibus. I know. I like the look of fear over your face of just oh, God. When are we going to see this all start to move into action?
So their Senate House are gone for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
They don't get back until not next Monday, but the Monday after.
Yeah, we all get a couple weeks off for Thanksgiving, right? Isn't that how it goes?
Totally normal.
And Thanksgiving is one of those holidays that not a lot moves on.
Mm-hmm.
There are some congressional recesses where you come back and you're like, oh, wow, you worked. Okay.
Right.
This is not one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, unless, debt ceiling, something we're really grinding towards a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So you obviously have Senate negotiators, House negotiators working on it. They had that top line budget number. Now it's just about appropriating that money.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to come back, and there's going to be a lot of questions. Do House conservatives demand any policy riders from Paul Ryan? The answer is going to be absolutely yes. There's going to be some demand on Syria. There's likely going to be other demands. Planned Parenthood comes to mind. Immigration comes to mind. And Paul Ryan has said, 167, I believe, of his Republicans voted against. I'm going to be really impressed if I remember that number correctly. Please do Google it. Voted against the top line numbers. So there's no way that he can get any of those Republicans to change their vote to yes without significant policy riders. Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, minority leader in the Senate, Harry Reid, has said absolutely no poison pill riders. So you're seeing a clash coming kind of head on. Because Nancy Pelosi was against this Syria bill. She didn't whip on it. She wasn't bending elbows, which we know she does very well. But she told members to vote their conscience, but she was against it. Harry Reid has said that they don't expect the Syria bill to be taken up in the Senate. So you're going to see a clash there. You're going to see a clash if they try to do something on Planned Parenthood, which my colleague Sungman has already reported that they are considering. Let's talk about Obamacare getting in there, and that's going to be an issue. There will be policy riders because of dates and times, you need to change little numbers here and there.
Right.
But it's about riders that Democrats view as poison pill and Republicans really view as necessary to get the votes. And then this is all going to come down to a situation of Paul Ryan's going to be in the middle. Does he turn and work with Democrats, or does he continue with his own caucus? And that's going to be the big question.
What's he going to do?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
tough, right?
It is really tough to predict because it's a new speaker. This isn't John Boehner, where we generally knew what John Boehner was going to do. He was going to try with Republicans, and when that didn't work, he was going to go to Democrats. But Paul Ryan isn't John Boehner. They, ideologically are pretty similar. They're both well respected, but Ryan is, I hate this term, but he's a thought leader within Republican conference, and they respect him so much, and they will follow him much more than John Boehner, and they trust him now. So it's really tough to see. The reality of the situation is not very different, but does he work with them? Does he try to get some sort of policy rider? Is Syria the one thing that can go forward because it's in the news right now and everyone's talking about it? It's possible. So
I got to think that for Paul Ryan's just, personal path here, right? Like a shutdown is just not a good look for him.
No.
At all.
No, not at all.
So, yeah, we'll see. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with Lauren French. Follow her on Twitter at LaurenInFrench and read her good work at Politico.com. Of course, the Thanksgiving hotline is open. If you want to give us a call, 866-55-FRESH. She knows what she's talking about.
Send your best brine recipes. We'll
Bring
have
it on.
out.
Bring it on. 22 minutes past the hour. Quick break. We'll be right back.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
Eye cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show, 27 minutes past the hour. I'm joined by Lauren French from Politico. Follow her on Twitter at Lauren in French. Just about a minute and a half left in the show, or in this segment. But look at Jamie freaking out. We got plenty of time left in the show. Don't go anywhere. I want to play you this clip from Nancy Pelosi. This is in relation to the refugees, but she brings up a point that Bill brought up when we talk about background checks on all these refugees. Here's Nancy Pelosi.
It is outrageous that we would be slamming the door on mothers and children while we still allow people on the terrorist watch list to walk in the door of a gun store and buy a gun.
All right, so there's Nancy Pelosi inserting the gun control stuff into this debate. Is that going to go anywhere?
Of course it's not going to go anywhere.
I didn't think so.
Congressional Democrats have been trying to get gun control to move forward for a very long time, and if series after series of shootings at schools and in movie theaters haven't pushed it forward, this is not going to be the thing that pushes it forward. They do have an ally in Peter King, a Republican, who wants to stop it. So if you're on the terrorist watch list, you can't buy a gun. But that's not, you saw Democrats kind of pushing this forward. I'm thinking of a few who tweeted it out about gun control or talked about it on the House floor. But gun control is dead in Congress. It's not going to go anywhere. It's such a politicized issue that there's just not any traction.
Yeah, I get that feeling. All right, Lauren French. Follow her on Twitter at Lauren in French, congressional reporter for Politico. Read her good work at Politico.com. And thanks for talking Thanksgiving.
All right.
And politics with me. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
You too. I better
great.
see some photos.
Deal. You will see some photos. My name is Peter Ogburn. Very quick break. We'll be back with Emma Roller from the New York Times. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada. What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry for guns.
I understand that CrimAdvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't Get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California!
Boo, go home. Wow. CrimAdvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
CrimAdvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show, 33 minutes past the hour on this Friday, November 20th. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Bill, when it comes around Thanksgiving time, he hits the road, Jack. He takes off. He cannot stay around here. He likes to get out in the world, which is good for him. But I'm here holding down the fort today. We've got a wonderful cavalcade of network stars next week who are going to help carry the show, leading all the way up to the big event, Thursday, Ving, the greatest holiday, which we've had a whole like argument this morning about where it ranks in terms of holidays. It's the best holiday, bar none. Jamie Benson, am I wrong?
Well, I've just realized, and I just put this out on Twitter, you are officially waging a war on Christmas by calling Thanksgiving the superior holiday.
Yeah. By the way, Christmas, 4 on the list. Number 4 on the list.
No. Ray and I both agree Thanksgiving and Christmas are top 2. I don't think either of us are ready to place one above the other.
Thanksgiving's number 1. 4th of July is number 2. New Year's Day is number 3. And then Christmas.
All right, Emma, tell him he's wrong about
Emma Roller joins us in studio. She is the contributing op-ed writer for the New York Times Campaign Stops blog. It's the first time we've had you in studio with your new job.
Hi.
Congrats.
Thank you. It's great to be
here.
here.
That's great news.
And
Congratulations on the
I'm
move.
now officially an expert on holidays, too.
Yes. You're going to learn so much
I'm like
today.
political blogger / holiday expert.
You're
That's
going
my
to
new
learn.
title.
You're going to learn a little bit. You're going to grow. It's going to be really exciting.
But I have to agree, Thanksgiving is number uno.
Bow, Jamie. Take that.
I'm not that upset about that. I am more upset about this 4th of July being at 3.
We'll discuss this in
And
about
Christmas
6
at
months. 7 months. By the way, we have a call because I've opened up the Thanksgiving hotline because as you know, Jamie, I cook Thanksgiving by myself every year, and it's one of the great pleasures I have in life. Linda in Santa Fe has called the Thanksgiving hotline. Linda, good morning, my dear.
Good morning.
What can I help you with, my darling?
First of all, I really appreciate your enthusiasm. I'm considering you my own personal cheerleader this year.
Oh, bless your heart, Linda. That's the
thanks
sweetest
for
thing
that.
anyone's ever said to me. What's your take?
I never know what temperature to cook the turkey at.
This
is a great question.
Oh, Linda, I've got you covered, my dear. All right, here's what you got to do. You have to start it in the oven at 500. It's a hot oven. It's a hot oven, 500 degrees.
That's bold.
All right, you start it there. What happens is you crisp up the skin a little bit. You get the browning that starts to happen. Okay?
All right.
You with me so far?
I am.
All right, you do that for about 45 minutes to an hour. This is where you're going to have to kind of watch because if it's a smaller bird, you can sort of scorch it a little bit. Right? And if it's a bigger bird, it might not get brown enough. So what you want to do is just watch to where you get that golden sort of brown thing start to happen, and then you drop it down to 350.
350.
Yes, ma'am.
And are you tinting it with foil ever or not?
Okay, now I do not because I've found that if you do it properly and you put what I do is I put a little butter under between the skin and the breast.
Oh, yeah.
Right, I've done that.
Because the risk here is that the white meat cooks faster than the dark meat, right? For people who don't know. So the white meat can tend to dry out before the dark meat is cooked. So you don't want to do that. But I make an herb butter, and you separate the skin from the breast meat, and you just put your hands in between like a glove, and you massage it all over the turkey breast. Pause. And it's wonderful. It doesn't dry out. It stays nice and moist, and that's how I don't use the aluminum foil tint.
And are you putting liquid in the pan?
No liquid in the pan because that creates steam, and that will dry out your white meat.
Gotcha.
You want a nice, hot, dry heat going on. I don't stuff the bird with anything, right? I don't do stuffing. I do dressing separately. Jamie, I'm dropping knowledge darts on you, and you're laughing at me, Jamie.
No, I'm
not you,
totally
Linda. No,
agreeing with you.
Linda and I are having a conversation here, Jamie.
Yeah, shame on them.
I don't do any liquid. I don't do any liquid in the pan. No, ma'am, I do not.
You are the man.
Thank you, my darling. I'm happy to help. See, folks, I know what I'm talking about. I do this every year, and it is the greatest thing in my life. I love cooking Thanksgiving dinner.
I just want to point out we still have 3 more shows until Thanksgiving. Is this going to continue next week?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you better believe it.
Keep doing this.
All day, every day, Jamie.
We have a real expert coming on Monday, by the way.
I'm excited for that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that on Monday, too. I'll talk about it all the way up to Thanksgiving. Okay, Emma.
Yes.
Now that you know how to properly cook and roast a turkey.
Yes, I feel like I've just absorbed so much knowledge.
I'm telling you, I'm here for you. Let's talk some 2016 news because you've been writing a lot about that. I want to pick up with probably the craziest story in this cycle, and there have been some crazy ones. Like there have been some legit nutty stories. Donald Trump yesterday, it sort of rolled out by our friend Hunter Walker, Texas Ranger from Yahoo, asked Donald Trump if he supported a database for Muslims. And he said, yeah. And then later on in the day, he said, absolutely, I will implement this as president. And then someone asked him, how is this different from the Jews in Nazi Germany? He says, well, that's for you to decide. What is he doing?
Yeah, he said, you tell me.
You tell me.
Yeah, so it's funny. That was my friend Vaughn who was asking Trump this question at a campaign stop in Newton, Iowa last night. You watch the video, and Trump's signing autographs, and he looks like he's sort of processing the question, but unsure what to say. So he just says, "You tell me."
Right. It's not like some of these Trump questions. It's like the information enters his head and searches around for a brain for a little while, and then what comes out of his mouth is it baffles me sometimes.
Well, yeah, it's kind of stunning the level of rhetoric that we've seen this escalate to. And, like we saw yesterday with the vote, there is bipartisan support to not let the refugees in now.
Yeah.
But Trump has totally capitalized on it. and it's clear that there is real fear out there among voters. I think I read a poll that a majority of Americans oppose it, which, I have some issues with personally, and I listened to Igor on the show yesterday.
Oh, it's great. By the way, if you haven't heard it, youtube.com or haven't seen it, youtube.com/TawkrTV, Igor Bobich, or Bobich from the Puffington Host was here yesterday and talked about his refugee story because he came over here as a Bosnian refugee. And it's amazing.
I had no idea. I know Igor, and I had no idea about that, and that was great for him to share.
Yeah.
So anyway, just the level of rhetoric here. And then Ben Carson said something yesterday, I believe, that seemed to maybe be equating refugees to rabid dogs.
Oh, no, he absolutely did. Jamie, grab that rabid dog clip if you can. Ben Carson talking about the refugees coming over here and how he views them.
You love dogs and you love your children, but you know that there's a rabid dog out there. Well, you're going to bring your child in the house until you know that rabid dog has been taken care of.
Yeah, he compares them to rabid dogs or rabbit dogs. I like how he says rabbit as rabbit dogs.
But do you really think he's talking about all refugees there, or just the sleeper cell terrorists?
I think he's talking about the Muslim refugees. Yeah, all Muslim refugees. Yes, I really do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's I think the grossest part of this whole thing is Jeb Bush and Ted Cruz and Ben Carson have all said we would let Christian refugees in.
Sure, which Jeb Bush has sort of walked back, but there was also an really sort of amazing video clip of Bush being interviewed by someone and him saying, I think there's a way for you to prove that you're a Christian, and the reporter just immediately follows up, how?
Yeah.
And he just makes this look, and he's like, ugh.
Oh, gross! It's just disgusting.
But honestly, are you supposed to recite Bible verses? What are you supposed to do?
But I guess that one question and Jeb Bush's lack of answer illustrates just how goofy that whole idea is. Mm-hmm. Get that Willie Nelson clip, Jamie, because of all people, Willie Nelson summed this up quite well. He was interviewed by CNN.
Really?
Yeah, he was interviewed by CNN.
I don't care about refugees. Bring them all in. I don't care. I don't care about borders. We don't need no
A
laws.
lot of governors disagree with you. The majority of governors are saying, do not come to my state. And you say that's wrong.
Absolutely, it's wrong. It's what our big Statue of Liberty says. Come on in.
Right? But we kind of stand for that as a country. That's what the Statue of Liberty is all about. That's how millions upon millions of families started here.
Did you see what Mike Huckabee said last week? It was
Was it wake up and smell the falafel?
Well,
that line?
It was after that.
The groaner?
He was in an interview with CNN, I believe, and the host brought that up and said, it's like the Statue of Liberty says, bring us your weary, I'm sure I'm grossly misquoting this right now.
You're tired, you're poor, you're huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. Yes.
And Huckabee responded, yes, Michael, but it doesn't say bring us your terrorists.
Oh, yeah.
So... Yeah,
touche, I guess.
The French sculptor sort of wrote "Bring us your terrorists" at the base of the Statue of Liberty, and then crossed it out.
Yeah, probably the optics.
Maybe not,
as they say, are not good on this. Okay, we're going to talk more about some 2016 stuff with Emma Roller. We need to take a quick break. Emma Roller from the New York Times is in studio. We're going to take a very quick break. We'll be right back. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Stay tuned.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
Maybe not as loud as Donald Trump, but he's a hell of a lot smarter. This is your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election, The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. 47 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today, along with Emma Roller. Go follow her on Twitter, by the way, at Emma Roller. It's spelled like roller at the end. Emma Roller. Emma Roller, though, with the New York Times. Go follow her on Twitter. An absolute delight. And
thank you.
I mentioned that we have the Thanksgiving hotline open. I know we've talked a lot of Turkey Day, but we're going to talk some more with Don in Chicago. Shout out to Don. What's happening, Don?
Hey, I'm wondering, do you spatchcock your bird?
No spatchcocking. I'm anti-spatchcock.
No, you keep it whole.
I keep it whole. Now, the spatchcock, if you don't know, is you take essentially the backbone out of the bird and you flatten it out. And that's useful and nice. It's a good way to cook a bird. That's how I do chicken on the grill, is I just cut that backbone out, and then you just you got to break the breastbone and take the back, and it sort of flattens out, right? And then you put it on the grill. I don't with the turkey because to be perfectly honest, I just like the idea of a big old whole roast turkey. And if you truss it up properly with a string, it makes a nice tight ball, and it roasts just as one big thing, and it takes a little bit longer than spatchcocking, but it's still a delicious bird.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that.
Don, you're welcome. Anytime. Anybody else has any Thanksgiving calls? I'm happy to take
I
it.
feel like you're like the king of fowl.
I love it.
With a W, not a U.
Well,
No,
I mean, to be fair,
Maybe
it could be both. It could be both. I know what I'm doing. I've done the Thanksgiving thing so many times. I love it. I love it.
You're like the Norman Rockwell patriarch, basically.
Yeah, like one year we went and we picked up our own bird at the farm, right? So they go slaughter it for us while we wait, and then they give us a bag of the feathers, and we made little headdresses out of them for the kids for Thanksgiving, right? Which is a little maybe weird. And
is there like an avian flu question there? I don't know. I would be a little wary of feathers in a bag.
I mean, what could go wrong? It seemed all perfectly fine. I mean, nobody put them in their mouth when we washed hands.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's talk some more 2016, Emma, because a couple of new polls out. This one was the Bloomberg Politics poll showed that Donald Trump is on top with 24%, Ben Carson with 20%. This is a nationwide poll. And an NBC News poll this morning shows that Donald Trump is at 28%, and tied for number 2 is Ben Carson and Ted Cruz at 18%. So 10 points behind the Trumps. I went on record earlier. I think Donald Trump is going to be the nominee. I really do think Donald Trump's going to be the nominee. Yeah, I do. I really do.
That's
who's going to take him down?
Bleak.
Who's going to take him down? I think Rubio has got a problem with the immigration stuff. Okay, and if we've seen what's working is the Trump thing. Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing is that I think there's somewhat of a misconception that polling dictates who will win, when in reality the party establishments in both parties play a huge role in who becomes the nominee. They ultimately sort of have the final say, and they can, influence delegates on their own. Yeah. And, the delegate process in each state is so different. It's such a thicket of different rules to go through. So I think, I still put money on Rubio, Cruz, or Bush, just because I really don't think the RNC will they might have to commit harikari if Trump is the nominee.
That's a fair point. But what is it that would be sort of the point for them to say, okay, we gotta stop this? Would it be Trump winning a couple of primaries?
Sure. Well,
or would it be earlier than that?
Honestly, I don't know how you feel, but we all joked about the summer of Trump, and when he first announced his presidency, people were laughing about him and his viability as a candidate. It's 4 months later, and he's still at the top of the polls. So I think just no real laws of political gravity apply here.
Yeah. All right, Emma, thank you so much for coming in. 52 minutes past the hour. Lots of stuff to cover. I'm glad you could come in and cover it with us.
Thank you.
Among, the turkey talk.
Love to talk turkey.
Some real politics stuff, too. Congrats on the big move to the New York Times. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, Emma Roller. Go follow her at Emma Roller on Twitter and read her good work at the New York Times. Thanks again, Emma.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, what do you say? Good morning. Great to see you this morning. This is the Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., bringing you up to date on all the news of the day, whether it's happening here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe. Coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station, on Free Speech TV, and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV. Events in the nation's capital. Hi, everybody. It's Bill Press. This year marks the 10th anniversary of doing the Bill Press Show, every day covering the news of the day with the nation's top newsmakers, either on the line or in our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Not only that, I go to the White House briefings every day to get answers to the top questions of the day. Bottom line, if it's happening in Washington, D.C., either at the White House or the Capitol, we are all over it. Every day, we welcome to our studio political leaders and reporters and labor leaders and newsmakers to help us understand the issues of the day. We started out as a radio show only, but over the years, we have branched out to all forms of the new media. So today, we're not just a radio show. We are podcasting, streaming audio, streaming video, and we are simulcast live on Free Speech TV nationwide. reaching out to 40 million households on Free Speech TV, in addition to hundreds of thousands on local radio stations and online.
AFGE is so proud to be associated with this show and looks forward to being working with Bill and this show for a long time.
Bill Press is the right man at the right time with the right message.
And thanks to the Bill Press Show, we get our message out to thousands and thousands of people every day. Thank you, Bill Press.
The Teamsters are a proud partner with Bill Press on his show, telling the truth about what's going on with working families. Tune in.
Yes, it's been a fun and exciting 10 years so far for the Bill Press Show. We're looking forward to many more with all of you, broadcasting live every morning from the nation's capital.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, sir. It is the Bill Press Show. 56 minutes past the hour. A couple of quick things from the Twitter. MJB says, please repeat the time that you roast at 500 degrees for your turkey. 45 minutes to an hour. You're looking for golden brown, not dark brown, and not black. That means it is burned. And Amy says, instead of herb butter, I use butter, Chardonnay, and country mustard rub between the skin and the breast. Also a delicious idea.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I go with a ton of fresh herbs and mix it up in the butter and then sort of do a little massage situation there. Tim in Chicago calling the turkey hotline. We are less than a week to go until Thanksgiving. Tim, what's your comment?
Thanksgiving number one. Absolutely, there's nothing that comes close.
That's right, Tim. You are absolutely right.
I'm a pretty standard, conservative Christian, but nothing makes me feel more like an American, like an absolute neighbor of my neighbor, than Thanksgiving, knowing that even the poorest of the poor is sitting down and having a meal today and thankful for one day on this planet. It doesn't matter. My entire life, I've never really cared about Christmas. Easter makes me sick. 4th of July is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I have to.
Tim, you get it, man. You get it. You took the words right out of my mouth. Thanksgiving means something. Right? And I know that Christmas means something to Christians, and this isn't like a Christian bashing statement. I just don't like what's come with Christmas, right? Christmas has turned into such a commercial thing. You got to give everybody cards. You got to go take a bunch of dumb pictures with your kids. You got to go to parties with people you don't like or know. Thanksgiving, there's no Thanksgiving cards. You don't have to do anything except for just cook and eat and hang and be thankful and be around people that you love and cherish. That's why it's number one. That's why it's number one by a mile.
It was really poetic.
Hey, man, I'll get you right in the cockles of your heart, man, every day. Maybe even the subcockle region. You know what I'm talking about? Thank you so much for tuning in today. It's the Bill Press Show. Bill is out next week. He is on vacation for the holiday, but we've got a lot of good stuff coming up. I'm going to be back in on Monday with more of the Turkey Hotline. Maybe we might not do so much.
I might not show up.
Lots of good stuff. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Couldn't do it without you. Follow us on Twitter at BP Show. Follow me on Twitter at Peter Ogburn. Follow Jamie at JBensonDC. And we're out of here. Have a magical weekend, everybody.
This is the Bill Press Show.